Okay, now this is the video review of the second part of the homework, which is actually the third part of the tutorial because they count the video as part one. So the first thing they have you do is go in and add those fields related to paint. So just kind of sit here and watch me do that. We're doing 2 string fields and 2 integer fields. So the paint color, remember once again the field name can't have spaces, so that's why I use the underline. And then you add each of the fields, and you can see it being added right there. And then I'm going to add the field for paint notes. And paint time, which we're going to do as integers, which would mean they would estimate it to the nearest hour. And for the very last variable, it's the one that's about whether they need paint or not. And this is going to be more of a logical thing, but we're going to set it as 0 for yes and 1 for no. So these will be integers too. And they're telling you to go ahead and set it to no. So unless they override that, the object doesn't need painting. So now you can see how they've added them all in there. And then we got to add in the labels, creating that list for yes and no. So remember that 1, that was what we had set the default value for. So they don't need to be painted unless we tell them otherwise. Now you can kind of see how everything is. You can close that option. And now we're going up to the app finder at the top and find field maps. Now this is not the mobile app. This is the web app version of it. So this is the one that you have to use to configure. This is only if you want to do to the higher levels of configuring. If you didn't, you could just use your map out of the box and use it with field maps, but that's probably not recommended. So we're going to go ahead and edit like they suggest, and I'm going to give it a new name. I'm going to include my last name as part of the name, which they're recommending calling it Parks Paint Assessment. Ask you to put a little summary in. Now, obviously, for the little thumbnail up there on the left, if you had a picture of your the park that you were going to digitize, that would be the best to have the thumbnail. But since I haven't even decided what park I'm going to take my data in, I'm just going to pull out a generic one. And in the actual assignment in Canvas, I actually have that image that you can save and use for yours if you want. So now I'm going to start configuring the form. We're going to start off with the places. And this is where you can do some kind of neat things like grouping. So they have you rename the places to amenity paint assessment, because that's what this is all about. We got to figure out if these different things, assets, need to be painted or not. And you're adding the field asset type at the end of it. And now we're going to say needs paint. You can actually type in more of a question there about whether the particular object needs to be painted or not. And this is the switch. This is between the yes and the no. And they want no to be the first choice. So that would be the one that would automatically show up. And then yes would be one that you'd proactively have to switch it to. So that's just like, so the default order is in one that makes a little bit more sense. And they are saying that this one needs to be required. And then if it is required, then you do have to allow null values. And make sure you're saving as you're creating these forms so you don't lose your changes. And then we're going to work on the paint time and change it to estimated paint time. And you can add in a little description that maybe tells them that they need to enter the data in whole hours. Yeah, since it is an integer. And this one they did not say was required. And for the paint notes, instead of having it just a single line, they're going to make it into a multi-line. And then the next cool thing is being able to group those 3 painting questions or data into one group, which is kind of neat. And that becomes important when we do this conditional, which we'll do in a second. So we're going to name the group name is going to be, I think they have you name it a little further down. Paint information is the name of the group. And then you're going to put in the paint time, the paint color, and the paint notes will be in that particular group. So once you create a group, you can just kind of drag and reorder things up into the group. So, and the reason we're doing this is we don't want any of these to show up if in fact you say it doesn't need to be painted. So by putting them all in one group, it saves you time of not having to do conditionals for each one of the conditions. And I'm going to put that at the very top because you want to know very first, does it even need to be painted? And then if it does, then it should pop up those questions that I'm just renaming them now about the paint information. And then this is where you go into the conditional visibility. This is a little different than what the tutorial says because they make you actually just type in the arcade, but they now have the expression builder. So it's kind of like using the filter that we've used in ArcGIS Online. And you can see how it fixes the syntax in the arcade for you. So you don't need to know all that much arcade to do it, which is good. And then once again, you're going to save it. And then you're going to go to templates, and this is where you can move these different features around. But what they want you to do is for the bike racks, they want them, they're pretty, maybe in this park or parks in the county or whatever, they're always blue. So you can set it to, so it'll be blue unless you write some other color down. And then you can reorder these to the ones that you think you might, see more often. Maybe the picnic table is the most common. Maybe put the two bins together. So you can just reorder these. So then this is how they'll pop up when you go to the field app and you do start to collect data. It will be in the same order. And then you can copy, so it'll make you let you quickly get everything from the previous one. If they're kind of all the same, you want to use the same symbol and everything. So it shortens your time if you allow them to be copied, all the feature attributes and the shapes, whatever you collected. But you can always override them. But it can make life a little bit easier if you just can copy from one edited feature to the next. Then you just want to make sure you save everything and share. And then this gives you your share link, and there's your QR code that you will download and upload to this assignment, because that'll be my quick and easy way of getting to your field map when you've got it done.